All right, sports fans, how's everybody out there doing? William Martin coming at you one more time here on YouTube with another edition of the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge Podcast. So, the adage usually tends to remain true in sports, and that is whatever you don't do well tends to get exposed in the postseason. The Philadelphia Eagles entered this NFL season as the defending Super Bowl champions, but the Eagles could never really find that pixie dust that they had last season. The Eagles went 11-6 this season, which was good enough for them to win the NFC East for the third time in the last 4 years. But even with that, something just never seemed right with this team all season long. You look at the games that Philadelphia won, and even some of those games were struggles. Okay. And honestly, outside of Philly's 31 to nothing win at home last month over the Vegas Raiders, they just never looked right. Um, the inconsistency of this team, especially the offense, was on full display last night in the Eagles' wild card ouster at the hands of the San Francisco 49ers. The Eagles allowed the 49ers to set the tone early as they took the opening kickoff and marched right down the field. The 49ers did for a touchdown to put them up by the score of 7-0. Now, to me, I think one of the biggest turning points in this game, you look at the two interceptions thrown by Niners quarterback Brock Purdy, and it was one of those where the Eagles' offense was really never able to take true advantage of it. It's one of those where this offense for the entire season was 24th in the NFL in total yards, while last season en route to winning the Super Bowl, the Eagles were eighth. Big difference right there. We saw the Eagles get bullied on their own home field last night in the fourth quarter in money time, courtesy of the 49ers. In that last frame, San Francisco outscored Philadelphia 13-3, okay, when the chips were pushed to the middle of the table. So now you look at this Eagles team, and the roller coaster ride continues under head coach Nick Sirianni. And the reason why I say that, we see one season where the Eagles are like a fine-tuned machine, and then the following season, that's not the case. 2021, when Sirianni became the Eagles head coach, they were 9-8, got to the postseason. 2022, we saw the Eagles go 14-3 and win the NFC. 2023, they went 11-6 and got ousted in the first round, courtesy of the Bucks. And then, of course, last year they went 14-3 again and were able to win the Super Bowl. And then, of course, this season, like I said, they just went 11-6. Now that the Eagles season is over, okay, the questions are going to begin as far as who is staying and who's going to be leaving this Eagles team. Bottom line is, you can go ahead and put me in the category of being that I would be extremely surprised if Philadelphia were to move on from head coach Nick Sirianni. Don't get me wrong, you got a lot of people out there that are always questioning Nick Sirianni. Not now. And I'll tell you like this, I've never seen a head coach in the NFL who has won as much as Nick Sirianni has, and he simply does not get the respect. You look at it, 59-26 in the regular season in 5 years as the Eagles head coach. He has the second most wins of any head coach in NFL history through his first 5 years. 6-4 in the postseason, and of course, the Super Bowl championship last year. The Eagles have made the playoffs in every single year that Sirianni is there. And also in winning the NFC East this season, the Philadelphia Eagles became the first team in 2 decades to repeat as division champions. So for me, the bottom line is all of these people who want to see Nick Sirianni go, okay, that's all well and good, but then you get rid of him. Who do you get? Okay, so I look at this thing. The Eagles, like I said, they've never missed the playoffs with him. They have talent on this team. You can make a very firm and compelling case to say, hey, the Eagles did underachieve this year. Absolutely. And it's easy to underachieve the year after you've won a Super Bowl because you were at the top of the mountain. And like I always say, it is so difficult to rekindle what you had. And I know that the Eagles have been through this before, some of the players on this team, but nonetheless, it's still tough to deal with. You look at one big question mark for me with the Philadelphia Eagles right now, and that is, has wide receiver A.J. Brown played his last game in Philly? Okay, we all know about the dust up on the sideline last night during the game, excuse me, between A.J. Brown and Nick Sirianni. Bottom line is this: A.J. Brown was frustrated. Nick Sirianni can try to pretty it up all he wants. A.J. Brown was frustrated, and he was frustrated from the fact that, hey, he felt that there should have been some defensive penalties against him when he was running his routes. He finished the game with 3 catches for 25 yards, no TDs, and of course, there was a stretch of the game where he did not get the ball thrown to him. However, when the Eagles called his number late in the fourth quarter, when the game was on the line, A.J. Brown dropped those passes. For me, when I look at A.J. Brown, and I look at it like this: his first 2 years in Philadelphia, he had more than 1,400 yards in each season. Since the acquisition of Saquon Barkley, Brown's numbers have gone down. He's barely getting over 1,000 yards per season, but nonetheless, the Eagles are still winning. And I said this last year because people can say whatever they want. A.J. Brown is frustrated in my book. But if you can't be happy when you're winning, when are you ever going to be happy? I look at A.J. Brown. Nick Sirianni could say whatever he wants on the surface. I know we saw his kids wearing A.J. Brown jerseys yesterday during the warmups. Nick Sirianni was throwing the football around to them. He says all the right things about A.J. Brown. Quarterback Jalen Hurts says all of the right things about A.J. Brown. But in my opinion, there is a disconnect. And for as much as A.J. Brown appears, okay, to be frustrated, all right, it's one of those where the writing is on the wall because this season, if you remember, Big Dom, the Eagles had a security, called A.J. Brown over at one of the team's practices and said, hey, the big man wants to see you, referring to team owner Jeffrey Lurie. And, you know, Jeffrey Lurie and A.J. Brown talked near Lurie's golf cart. And when the owner pulls you over, that's never a good thing. Okay. And honestly, with A.J. Brown's frustrations, because I truly believe there are, this to me smells of Howie Roseman simply going out there and trading A.J. Brown this offseason, getting a first or second round pick back for him, drafting A.J. Brown's replacement, and keeping the machinery going because the Philadelphia Eagles, especially under Howie Roseman, know how to get off of a player a year early as opposed to being a year late. And A.J. Brown has all of the talent in the world. But if there's a disconnect there and it's messing with the team's chemistry, then guess what? The Eagles ain't going to go for it. Both Jeffrey Lurie and Howie Roseman were around about 20 years ago when things went south with the relationship between Eagles quarterback Donovan McNabb and wide receiver Terrell Owens. I don't think they want to go back there and have another repeat of that. I truly do think that we just saw A.J. Brown play his last game in Philadelphia. It's one of those, for me, another big question about this Eagles team, and I'm going to stick on the offense. Did Kevin Patullo, the offensive coordinator, do enough to run it back with his team in 2026? Remember, Patullo has been on Sirianni's staff since he took over as Eagles head coach. They go back together when Sirianni was an assistant coach with the Indianapolis Colts. But Patullo inherited an offense under now New Orleans Saints head coach Kellen Moore that was 8th in the NFL in yards last season. This season, they were 24th. For me, one of the biggest things as far as Patullo goes, you look at today's press conference, or today's interview rather, with Jalen Hurts, and he really did not go out of his way to give a solid endorsement to have Kevin Patullo come back as his team's offensive coordinator. Basically, Jalen Hurts went out there and said, hey, it's too soon to think about that. If you read between the lines, guess what? That means Kevin Patullo more than likely is going to be gone, because if Jalen Hurts wanted Kevin Patullo back, he would have basically come out and said that, my friends. That's the bottom line. I look at it like this. You look at Jalen Hurts. If the Eagles were to move on from Kevin Patullo, that would be his fifth different offensive coordinator in as many years in the National Football League. That's a big question right there, albeit two of those head offensive coordinators went on to become head coaches after each of their Super Bowl years. But my thing is this: the Eagles' bread is buttered by their ground game. Last year, it was Saquon Barkley. When they got to the Super Bowl a couple of years ago, it was the likes of DeAndre Swift and Miles Sanders. It's one of those where the run game comes first, and then they build off of that with their pass. And of course, we saw Saquon Barkley have a historic season last year when he ran for more than 2,000 yards. And basically, had he have not sat out the final game of the regular season, he would have broken the NFL single season rushing record. It's one of those, whenever you have a historic season like that, it's tough to replicate that. And like I've been saying all season long, with the Eagles' struggles on offense, it's one of those where we go back to the game plan that the Chiefs had against the Eagles in the Super Bowl last February. Basically, Chiefs defensive coordinator Steve Spagnuolo said, "Hey, you know what? I am not going to let Saquon Barkley rather, beat me with his legs. I'm going to make Jalen Hurts beat me with his arm." And Jalen Hurts was able to do that. And as talented as Jalen Hurts is for this Eagles offense, Jalen Hurts is a winner. I will never take away from what he has done in college. I'll never take away from what he has done in the NFL. He is 57 and 25 as a starting quarterback in the regular season in the NFL. Jalen Hurts is never going to be a guy who's simply going to say, "Hey, I'm going to put this offense on my back." That's not his makeup physically. Okay. If you're talking about you need a quarterback who's going to go out there and throw for 4,000 yards each and every season, Jalen Hurts is not your guy. Jalen Hurts feeds off of the running game. It sets a lot of things up for him. And of course, like I said before, Philly had a good running game this year. They did not have a great running game this year. And I think going forward, they're going to have to get back to that. And one name I will throw out there, and this is just on a whim, maybe a Mike McDaniel. Okay. If Mike McDaniel does not get another head coaching job this go around after being let go by the Miami Dolphins, could he possibly work in Philadelphia with this offense? We've got to wait and see. Saquon, I'm not going to say that Saquon Barkley can still go out there and get another 2,000 yard caliber season next year. It's very difficult to follow those up. But nonetheless, Saquon is still a tremendously effective runner with the football in the National Football League. It's just a matter of keeping that line solid and going out there with an attitude. Philadelphia simply did not have that. If you look at the Eagles team last year, they played with bad intentions. I didn't see those bad intentions this season from the Eagles. They took everybody's best shot as the defending Super Bowl champions, and they kind of like lollygagged, if you will, through the season at times. They won their first four games, and honestly, the Eagles, to me, I don't think they ever truly recovered from losing their fifth game of the season when they lost at home to the Denver Broncos. Remember, Philly was up 17-0 in that game and blew it and lost at home 21-17. They followed that up by losing by 17 points on the road to the Giants. And then just when it looked like Philly was able to turn the corner, they won their next four. They followed it up with a three-game losing streak. And then, of course, they had a chance to get the 2 seed and possibly home field advantage through the second round of the postseason. They sat some of their guys in week number 18 against Washington. The Bears lost. Philly finished with the same record as the Bears, and then Philly had to settle for the 3 seed. And of course, they're now one and done. But like I said, they just never had that chemistry. You got to wonder about this offensive line. Still some young talent in the trenches for Philadelphia, but a veteran like right tackle Lane Johnson is going to be 36 years of age come May. How much more is he going to play? I look at this Eagles defense, a lot of young talent. Credit to Howie Roseman because, again, he knows how to get off of a guy a year early as opposed to a year late. And he's been drafting, and what they do, and if you follow the Eagles game plan, they basically treat it like college, meaning, you draft guys, and typically, your freshmen and sophomores really don't play unless they're the big time impact players. and then they come into their own junior and senior year. Well, we're seeing that with a lot of the defensive players for the Philadelphia Eagles. A guy like Cooper DeJean, of course, he doesn't fit that mold. He has star potential. There's a lot of talent on this Eagles defense. You got the likes of Nakobe Dean, you got the likes of Zach Bond, you got the likes of Jordan Davis and Jalen Carter as well. And of course, you have the veteran defensive coordinator, Vic Fangio, bringing it all together. Defense was never really the problem this season. I think the biggest thing was the lack of cohesiveness on this offense, and that is something that definitely has to be addressed. I think it's going to be a very important offseason for the Philadelphia Eagles. I don't think that they're going to take things lightly. And I think they're going to come back, make the necessary adjustments, and go out there and try to make another push for a Super Bowl championship next season. But I guarantee you that everybody who was on this Eagles train this season is not going to be on the train next season. And I'll tell you like this. I feel like if Nick Sirianni and Jalen Hurts are back with the Eagles for next season, I don't think A.J. Brown is there. I really do think A.J. Brown is going to be the odd man out on this thing. Maybe I'm wrong. You can say whatever you want. But you could just simply see it. There was a lack of chemistry all season long from this club. So at the end of the day, I'm shocked, but I'm not shocked that the Eagles lost yesterday to the 49ers because, like I said, coming in, all six of these first round games could go either way. I really think that the Niners went out there and really set the tone early, and then their ability to consistently run the football. Even though Christian McCaffrey didn't have a great game rushing last night, it still allowed them to go out there and take care of business. And I know people are going to say, well, the Niners were depleted, this, that, and the third. Nick Sirianni got out-coached by Kyle Shanahan. Say whatever you want. But again, that hunger and sticking with the city of Philadelphia, that eye of the tiger, if you will, simply was not there from this team all season long. And like I said at the start, whatever you do or don't do, well, always shows up in the most inopportune time for you. And that inopportune time, more often than not, is the postseason. The bottom line is the Eagles simply lacked the it factor all season long, and it caught up with them. Changes definitely have to be made. Clearly, I don't know what those changes are. I'm not in within that organization, but I'll tell you like this: changes definitely have to be made for this club. The Eagles are still a championship contender. I truly do feel like they have the pieces there. I think things are going to be shuffled around. What's going to be shuffled, we got to wait and see. But nonetheless, not the ending that the Eagles were hoping for. And it's back to the drawing board as they try to get this thing righted. But folks, that's going to wrap it up. And as always, I want to take this time out to thank each and every one of you for checking out the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge podcast here on YouTube. And as always, if you like what you heard and saw in this podcast, you know what to do. Just be sure to hit that like button as well as subscribing to this channel. And like I always say, it's greatly appreciated. Also, definitely continue to check out this channel this month as well as in the month of February. First things first for this week, got a lot to talk about for the upcoming college football playoff. Got plenty to talk about for the remainder of these NFL playoffs. And before you blink, okay, we're going to be talking about free agency and the draft as well. But nonetheless, definitely stay plugged in to this channel. Also, if you're on the X, formerly known as Twitter, you can check me out anytime at 300 Pounds of Sports. And like I always say, if you give me that follow, it will be my pleasure to do the same in return. And that also goes for Instagram, where you can check me out at 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge. Also, if you're on Facebook, definitely be sure to check out the Sports Depot 365. And as far as I'm concerned, one of the better sports groups going on social media. But until next time, fine folks, my name is William Martin. I'm signing off, and I'm saying thanks once again for checking out the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge podcast here on YouTube. Be well, everybody.